Hey guys, and in this Blender tutorial we're going to be creating some glow effect. So what I'm going to do is apply this to say like a spacecraft engine or something like that, where you got a glowing light coming from inside, but you could apply it to pretty much any situation where you need a glow and a glare type effect. So I used it actually in a project that I did, which was here in this spacecraft corridor. So in this image here, you can see we've got this glowing effect coming out of the walls where the lights are, from behind these grills, and also you can see quite a lot of glare and blur coming out from the lights on the walls there. We've also got the glowing coming from underneath the floor. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually create this floor basically in this project. We're going to create this floor area and have lights coming from underneath it. So this isn't really a modeling tutorial. I suppose you already know some modeling already and you're just looking on how to do this. But just in case, we'll model the floor so that we're all up to speed. So we'll delete our default cube and we'll go ahead and we'll place in a plane. I'm going to scale that up a little bit, and then I'm going to go over into edit mode. We will cut this in half because we're going to use a mirror modifier, which will make things quicker for us. So loop cut, and we'll cut it in half like so, and then we'll remove these two vertices. So select them, hit X and delete the vertexes. Now we've got half of an object. We'll come over to our modifiers, add modifier, mirror modifier, mirror in the y-axis, turn on clipping, and we're good to go. Okay, so now we're going to make our floor shape. So basically all we're going to do, very simple, is we get our loop cut. We're going to place a cut here, and then we just grab hold of this edge and this edge and this edge, and we're just going to extrude that downwards. Actually, not extrude, we stick in another loop cut, sorry. We'll put another one in here, close to that. There we go. And then we select these edges and we just move them downwards like so. There we go. So there's our floor space. Now I'm going to grab this, we'll move that to the side, make it a bit wider. Okay, so there's the recess in our floor in which our lights are going to be placed. You can make that about so deep. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick an array modifier on this. So in our modifiers here, object mode, add modifier, we're going to add an array modifier, and that now just copies that several times in a row for us. And we're going to go for -1, so it goes backwards. Okay, so now we can make our kind of corridor, the tray, whatever length we want. Right. Now inside here we're going to place a couple of objects which are going to be our light emitters. So we just go over to create, make sure you're in object mode, we create a cylinder. We're going to rotate the cylinder 90 degrees. I think 90 degrees on the y-axis, correct. And we'll scale it down. And then we'll scale it in the x, sorry. It's about so long, we'll scale it down a bit more. It doesn't need to be very big, but we do want it to be long. Oops. That's about the right length. Okay, we'll put this into position here. And it needs to be down inside of our floor. And then we'll duplicate this. So we want a duplicate copy, so it'll be Alt-D. And then any changes you make to one object will automatically be reflected in the other. Move that over to the side. Okay. So there is our two objects. Now we're going to remove the end caps because we don't need those. That will save us a bit of rendering time. Go into edit mode. Face selection. Select one, sorry. Edit mode, face selection, delete the face, and delete the face on the other side. There we go. Okay, so this is going to have our material applied to it. That's going to be our glow material. Now we just need to make the floor. So come back over into our object mode here. We're going to join these. But before we do that, we're just going to place a placeholder material. So you want to make sure that you're in Cycles Renderer. We don't want to use the Blender Render here. You can do this in Blender Render, but I'm going to use Cycles for this. So from your options here at the top, choose Cycles Render. Come over here then to Textures. We're going to create a new texture, and this will be an emission texture. Color will be white, and our strength, we'll jack that up maybe to around 8. Should do us for now. Okay, so we'll just leave that as it is, and then we'll select this object here, create another new material. This will just be a diffuse material, and we'll make this a grayish color. So we'll call this the structure gray, and the one we're using on here we will name our glow white glow or white light. Now we've got our two materials already assigned. Okay, so that just makes things a little easier for us later when we start combining objects. Right, so now we'll make the grid pattern on the floor. So in our structure here, I'm just going to turn off for now our modifier, because you only need to model half of this, so it'll just be easier to model if we only see half. Okay, and we're going to bring in we're going to create a cube. And this cube here, we will jump into edit mode, select the top face, select our bottom face. I want to make it into a little kind of oblong metal bars. This is going to form our grid for the floor, so I'm just going to scale it down a little, move it forwards, so I want to align it up at the end there. Backwards, up, okay, and line up at the end. Okay, now jump back into edit mode, select the end face. Oops, there we go, and we'll move that out. Just going to turn on our mirror modifier again. And we're going to apply also a mirror modifier to this. Mirror modifier in the y-axis, turn on clipping. Now our mirror object is going to be our plane, and now that will mirror it to the other side. So whatever we do on one side now will be mirrored on the other. That's what we want. Let's go to a top view, zoom in, and I want to line this up with the end of our floor. It's probably about right. Okay. Oops. Okay, so now we have that. We're going to create an array in the direction that we want it to go. So add modifier, array, we'll make it -3, up our count until we get to the other end. We don't want to go over, so that's just about right. Okay, so now we've done that, let's duplicate this and we're going to rotate it around. So we'll actually, I think we can apply the mirror. Hold on. Duplicate and rotate. So we'll hit R. Oopsie daisy. Okay, yeah. So I want to rotate this around 90 degrees. Whoops, wrong axis. 90 degrees on the X. No. It's always the last one you go to. 90 degrees on the Z axis. So we're getting some funky stuff going on because of our mirror. So we want to apply that mirror modifier before we rotate it. Okay. Now we'll rotate it 90 degrees, and that's better. Right. Now we drag this back. Obviously you can see here that the size is a little bit wrong. It's overhanging on the end there, so let's jump over into edit mode. And we only actually have to edit one of our items because it will be reflected in all the others. So we just grab the end face here and we'll move it in. That's good. Okay, we'll jump back over into object mode. Now you can see also we need to move it over to the right. And we'll probably want to up our array count because we need slightly more. Maybe too many. Okay, 24 is about right. Center that up. Okay, so there's our grid there. Now I'm going to scale this in the Z-axis. I want these to be a little thinner. Okay, so there's our grid on our floor. Read down to count 23 and shift this across. Okay, we're good there. Right. So there's our floor done, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to join our two floor objects. So let's label this floor grid. This will be floor grid 001. So we'll select both of these. And we'll go Control J to join them together. We need to apply the before you do the join, you need to apply all our modifiers. Otherwise you get weird effects happening. Apply. Okay, now Control J. That joins those up. So now this is one object that we're dealing with. And then we're going to apply a material to this. So we're going to create a new material. Material 01. Surface color. We're going to make it dark gray. And we'll call this dark steel. So that's going to be our floor. We'll apply that to the object there. So now, if we come down into our settings here, you can choose a viewport color. So our viewport color for this is going to be the dark color there. That just helps us to identify which items have already got textures applied to them. So our viewport color for this will be gray. And our viewport color for our emission will be white. We'll leave that as white. Oops. Pure white. Okay. So there's our three objects. All right, we're not going to model much more than this. We just want to have the light coming from underneath the grid. That's what this tutorial is about. So I'm going to join these two objects together, so Control J. Actually, before we do that, I want to apply the mirror modifier to our floor there. Apply the mirror modifier. Okay, so actually we'll join up the lights first. Control J. We apply the mirror modifier. Just got to get these modifier applications in the correct order, and then we'll join this. Now we're good. Oops. Control J joins those up. We turn on our array again. There. So there's our floor with our lights now copied in the array all underneath the floor there. Nicely done. So that's our floor finished. Now we're going to add in the very basic textures. So I'm going to drag open a new window here, and I'm going to change this into Node Editor. Okay, now in our Node Editor here we can begin to add and build up our textures. So, well, first of all, we will go into our textures here, and we're going to select our dark steel. Now we want some reflectivity to this. So in our material output here, what we can do is we can begin to add in nodes, and this will add features to our parameters to our texture. So let's go and add in from the shader. We will add glossy, and we stick that between the two. So now it's joined up. As you can see here, we have our diffuse color coming into our glossy to our materials output. And you can see here there's a preview of our material. So if you alter the roughness of the material, it will alter the glossiness, which is the amount of reflectiveness of our material. So we don't want our floor to be too reflective, but it needs to have a little bit of reflectiveness. So we'll set the roughness there approximately. It's probably good. So that's about it for that. And then let's go to our structure color, which again we're going to add a node, which will be again a glossy. This can be a little bit more reflective than the floor, but not a whole amount, but a little bit more. We go to about there. Okay. And then we have our white light, which is just basically an emission. We do nothing really to this. We're just going to adjust the strength depending on how we want our objects to look. So there we go. So now if I go to rendered, you'll see that's a rough render, but we have our glowing lights coming from underneath our floor area there, which I think looks pretty cool. So we're almost there now. We're just going to position our camera and then we'll do a final render. So let's jump back into normal solid view. We'll display our other layer, which includes our camera. We can remove this light, probably we don't need that. So X. Now our camera, we want to probably turn off all rotations. 0, 0, and 0. So we're okay. Now we can set it up properly. So it's probably going to be 90 degrees. 90 degrees. No. Will be 90 degrees here. Is that correct? No, we need to rotate it 90 in the other direction as well, I think. There we go. Almost. Not quite. Where's our top and bottom of this? Okay. Yeah, so I want to come up 90 degrees in this direction. And then we want to rotate it 90 degrees. I think I'm the Y. Nope. Must be Z. There we go. Okay, so there's our camera. We'll position this centered. So I'm going to go to my top view. Okay. This view from our active camera. So this square here is basically what the camera can see. So we want to adjust our camera a little bit. In the x-axis. And in our z-axis. There, okay. So that effectively is what our camera can see. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to up the number in our array so that it goes a little bit further. Nine's good. Excellent. So now if I jump over into rendered view, so there is our lights coming from underneath our floor. So now I'm just going to do a final rendered output of this so you can get the kind of full effect. So I'm just going to do some settings first of all. We will come into our render settings here and close this. So here in our render settings, I want to go to sampling. In our render, I want to sample 500 times. That will give us a nice smooth rendered finish. And now it's just a matter of hitting our render button here, and the render will begin. So this will take a few moments. I'm just going to pause. Final render. It would look, better if we had textures and everything on the floor here. Like I said, I use this exact same technique for doing this screen, this display here, but we added textures to the floor and more reflections and bump maps and things. But that's basically it. And then all these other lights were created in the same way. We just apply the same material, or you create a new material, we just change the diffuse color. So if we wanted these underfloor lights to be a slightly different color, it's just a matter of changing our color in our texture. So you just come over here to your textures, jump back over into 3D view. Yeah, so here in our textures here, in our white light, you would just change the color to be whatever you want it to be. So if you wanted a slightly blue colored light, you can move that up there and the light will get a bluish tinge to it. So that's how you can change the color of your lights to be whatever color you desire for your scene. So in the next tutorial, carrying on from this, we're going to actually UV unwrap and begin adding a texture to this floor. And we'll add in some walls just to make a very basic corridor here. So I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you did, please head over to my blog, and the address can be found underneath the YouTube video. Hit the like button and subscribe to keep up to date with all the latest tutorials for Blender, Motion 5 and Final Cut Pro.